Have you ever received advice like, just be yourself, that's the best thing you can do? Be the best version of you. Just be who you want to be. Just be yourself has become sort of a statement that people venerate these days. People celebrate just be yourself probably because it kind of feels like a warm hug. There's something about this quote that makes us feel so comfortable. It's soothing, right? It sounds soothing. It's such a soothing reminder because it's easy to swallow and easy to apply in any challenging scenarios. Just be yourself and everything's gonna be okay. It feels kind of empathetic, reassuring, understanding. But if we really investigate it further, what does it even mean to be ourselves? And who are we? I think a lot of us assume be yourself is just be yourself no matter what people say to you or judge you. Just stay true to yourself for the most part. I mean, you're right, I can just be myself. It's not that challenging, I guess. I don't have to be anything that I'm not. But what if I don't really know how to be myself? What if I'm not the best version of myself right now? And why just be myself when I can be so much more? It gets a little hairy for me. It doesn't feel right, despite the fact that it's a positive quote. Because it's a statement that we use so often that we feel like we know what it means. And we feel like I know how to follow it. But we really take a minute to step back and be like, what actually be ourselves? Just be yourself only applies to some situations in life. And this gets overlooked by those who heavily believe in this quote. Because in reality, be yourself is not this magical statement that you can just shove into any scenario and it fits. I'm very aware that it comforts so many people in so many different challenging situations. I mean, it's not useless. There's a reason why it's a popular quote. But as I'm growing older, I'm sort of reanalyzing this statement that I received or given from many sources. And I'm starting to discover the flaws in these things. And I think that's a good thing because inspirational quotes and advice online looks really good on the surface, but when you start analyze them, they usually have some holes. But if I'm being honest with you, I feel a bit guilty about this statement because I've actually used it before. I mean, I have to admit it. There's times where I've given this advice to a few people. Not many, but a few. But hear me out. Of course I meant it. I wanted them to become the best version of themselves. I genuinely meant it in a positive way. But now that I'm looking back on it, I realized that it sort of lacked depth and proper analysis. And on top of that, it's a bit cringe for me. I don't know if you feel the same, but it sounds a little bit cliché to me. And this kind of guilt actually brought me to create a full episode. So today, I want to specifically touch on this quote, just be yourself, and analyze why I find be yourself cliché advice. What makes advice good or bad? How to offer the most practical and realistic advice. So, let's investigate it together. Let's start out with why be yourself is often considered cliché. Well, I think one of the main reasons for that is overuse. It's common. It's very, very, very common. I'm pretty sure many of you heard of it at least once or more. When you search for quotes on the internet, still to this day, it consistently appears at the top. This phrase has become one of the most popular quotes on Pinterest, I would argue. I've noticed that people often offer it in various situations, without much deep thought, without much hesitation. Number 2, lack of depth. I vaguely mentioned this earlier that I find be yourself is sort of lack depth and proper analysis because it doesn't provide any concrete guidance. I will give you an example. Let's say you have your own insecurities that you've been struggling with for a really long time. And let's say you decide to seek advice to your friends and say, hey, I actually struggle with low self-esteem. There's a part of my personality that I really don't like. And I really, really want to improve and become more confident. Like, do you have any ideas on how to achieve that? I'm not sure what to do. And your friend's response, girl, just be yourself. You don't need to change who you are. Let people see the real you. Let people see the imperfect, flawed person that you are. How do you feel about this advice? Is that advice what you're looking for? Does that sound sincere and specific? I don't think so. When you share something or vent something with someone, you expect to hear from them a feasible, realistic piece of advice. But if someone offers advice that are lacking depth, it can only lead to cliché quotes online, which are no different, if not worse, than those that already exist. Another reason for that is be yourself is an inherently pessimistic statement that doesn't want the best for you, a statement that encourages you to stop growing. For example, if someone is naturally introverted and shy and reserved and needs to develop their social skills for career or personal reasons, but they have always been encouraged to be themselves by their family or friends, then they might miss out on opportunities for self-improvement. Because if they too cling to the idea of being themselves, they might resist unnecessary changes and personal growth. We are such a chameleon of sorts. When you're around girls or boys having a beer, we're gonna act way differently than we do. When you're at a job interview, we're gonna be a proper and professional and maybe a little bit personable. When you're around the parents, we definitely act way differently than you're around our friends. When you're social settings, we tend to be more extroverted and outgoing to fit into the circumstances. We do this because we kind of have to. Sometimes we have to be professional, other times we have to be very charming and funny. Different situations that we're in recruit different parts of us, different emphases. So the point I'm trying to make is people can change and develop over time. So just be yourself might discourage personal growth or adapting to new situations when necessary. So you should be mindful that you're ever evolving and changing person. So you should keep searching for ways to improve and grow to become a better person. Giving advice can be quite tricky because every person's situation is unique. You need to comprehend their specific challenges and consider multiple factors. It's complicated, right? It's very complicated because there are so many exceptions out there. However, I did my best to put it all down on paper and kind of narrow it down. So here's what I think what makes advice good or bad. I think good advice can be open-ended and lack forcefulness. Let's say you're mulling over switching to a different company. You find yourself torn between pursuing a more passionate career or just sticking with your current job to avoid any risks. In this scenario, one of your friends suggests, well, it might be worth exploring different career options. If you feel ready for a change, then take the initiative. But most importantly, follow your heart and trust your intuition to guide you in the right direction. This advice offers a suggestion without harshly pushing a specific choice, yet it still provides encouragement, right? So this can be a good advice. I think also good advice is heavily analyzed by the person giving the advice. I find that good advice comes through the analysis of life experience. This is something that I've been mainly focused when I offer advice to someone because I truly believe that life experience guides us in the right direction, even during challenges. Throughout all the challenges in our journey, we gain numerous realizations and valuable lessons that contribute to our personal growth. What we go through in life shapes who we become. But the truth of the matter is, not everyone tries to learn life lessons through challenges. Some people don't know how to handle difficulties or approach them in a negative way, which leaves no room for personal growth. I think that they have a tendency to kind of lock themselves in a closed mindset and totally miss the opportunity to become a better person, which is kind of shame. It's really shame. to just look at it like that. You know, one thing I realized throughout my life is that a person's age doesn't necessarily define their maturity. You might meet somebody who's younger than you, who's had more life experiences and wisdom because they've been through some shit a lot. And you also might meet somebody who's 50 years old who has had a pretty easy life, hasn't had to deal with other challenges, and as a result, they don't have much that wisdom, and they're likely less mature than us. People come in many different types with unique life experiences, so it can be quite risky to judge them solely based on their age. So when it comes to offer good advice, it's not about age. It's more about life experience. And this realization becomes more and more distinct as I'm getting older. I think advice that is not deep or is simply a cliché is bad advice. I think any sort of cliché lacks depth. I will give you an example. Let's say you have some insecurities about your appearance, whether it's your eyes or nose or skin, jawline, whatever. And it's been bothering you so much, so you decide to go to friends and be like, hey, I actually don't really like my nose. I don't think it's pretty. I don't like this part of my appearance. Like, what should I do? How do I fix this? And your friend says, I don't know why you're so worked up. You don't need to change anything. You're beautiful inside and out, and everyone is beautiful. How's this sound? They don't elaborate. They just give you that advice. It's just an empty statement that might even make somebody feel confused about themselves because the receiver of the advice expects to hear genuine and concrete suggestions. But when somebody gives that advice, it's usually not well thought out. They're not deeply analyzing or trying to figure out what the receiver is going through. Therefore, it's bad advice. When advice is too biased and too based on personal experience, it's really hit or miss whether it's going to be any good. When somebody's saying, you need to do this because that's how I did it. I did this and it worked for me, so you should do it too. When somebody offers advice in that way, it's really hard to make your own because it completely disregards individual differences. Listen, there's no one-size-fits-all advice. There's no such thing as that. Just because it worked for you doesn't mean it worked for everyone else. I think this is the core realization in terms of give advice. Last but not least, advice rooted in personal agenda is typically bad advice. Personal agenda means, if you don't know what it is, it's basically individual specific goals and intentions that prioritize their own interests, prioritize their own motivations. I'll give you an example. Let's say you got a coworker who keeps telling you not to take on a new project at work. They say it's too time consuming, it's too hassle, it's not worth to spend time and money, blah 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 blah. They're totally against you, even though you can see the potential. But in truth, their personal agenda is all about keeping their own job safe. The only concerns they have is their own benefits, so they can try to hold on to their job. They don't give a shit about you, okay? They don't give a shit about you and your career goals, the potential benefits of the project. They couldn't care less at all. They just throw out that advice because they have something to gain from you, which means their advice is rooted in nothing but personal agenda. I've noticed that some people misunderstand the concept of being yourself. Certain people tend to view just be yourself as an oversimplification. People often interpret just be yourself as doing whatever you want and never backing down and be unapologetic. So those who absurdly take this advice might say, oh, I can just be myself and that's it? Is that simple? Wow. Yo, this is who I am. Take it or leave it, like me or not. I won't change who I am even if I have flaws. Why? Because I was built like this. But I will tell you, change is necessary at times. If you have some flaws that consistently trigger you and those around you, it's a sign that you need to change on a certain extent. If you've been struggling with insecurity for your entire life and now you want to become a better person, then take the initiative. Step out of your comfort zone and actively work on self-improvement. But don't get me wrong, I am very aware of the statement that people never change, and I swear by that, probably more than anyone else. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you refuse to change yourself, knowing that you have some flaws and shortcomings, that's really nothing but stubbornness. Deep down knowing that you need some self-improvement, but the way you're behaving is like you're perfect, and seeking validation from others that you don't need to change, that's the definition of being fake. I don't know, maybe I'm taking this whole thing too seriously, but I just wanted to share my perspective, and that's all. In conclusion, the quote, "Be yourself," is subjective. It's very subjective, and I know it might contain more deeper meaning than I thought. As much as I like this quote, but I still am somewhat skeptic about it. So I like to kind of recreate this statement in my own words to make it more easier to grasp for both myself and for people who might be confused by it. So instead of just throwing "be yourself" into any scenario, I highly encourage you to ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? And how do you want it to feel to be you? Do you want somebody who has the desire to pursue their dreams? Do you want somebody who has all the motivation, excitement to tackle the most important things in your day? Do you want somebody who wakes up in the morning in a giant mansion, driving a nice car, and enjoying all the luxuries? I think these are far more important questions than just how to be yourself. And I will tell you, the only person that truly figure out these answers is you. No matter how many times you see advice from like 10,000 people or receive advice from 10,000 people, the only person who can truly distinguish whether advice is good or bad is you. That's all I have for today. Let me know if I overanalyze this quote. Let me know if I'm hyperfixated on self-improvements, which I think I did. Listen, my podcast is categorized in self-improvement. Like, what else would I share with you, right? Not that I'm limiting myself, though. Like, who knows? Maybe one day I will round my podcast to another category. Like, who knows? I don't know my future holds. Anywho, I really appreciate all of you listening and hanging out today. It's always such a pleasure. If you enjoyed this episode, tune in every Thursday. Come and hang out. You can listen anywhere you stream podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, wherever else. And check out my Instagram if you want, YEXNINX. And check out my podcast Instagram, Love Being Alone by Eileen. I hope that you're all doing very well. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.